There's a lot to talk about from episode 6 of The Last of Us. It's full of big, emotional moments. However, I think the grand scale of these heavy moments make it easy to overlook a small, subtle, but really, really important scene that takes place earlier in the episode. A scene that I think tells us absolutely everything we need to know about the arc of Joel and Ellie here, and sets up everything perfectly for the next episode, so that's what we're going to start with. It's the small scene in the morning round the campfire after Joel wakes up having fallen asleep on watch. Why is this so important, and what is it hiding in plain sight? Well, let me attempt to explain. Technically though, we do have to talk about the stuff around this scene first, because the episode raises a lot of questions that this scene then answers, okay? So the episode begins really fittingly with a shot of Henry's death again, because as I said in my episode 5 video, I expect the weight of him and of Sam to be heavy on Ellie in this episode. Having us begin with a flashback to it not only reminds us as the audience, but also makes it feel like Joel and Ellie aren't able to forget that either. And they talk to these people for directions to get to Tommy. There's some ominous talk about a river of death and of dangers that Ellie doesn't believe, but Joel is visibly scared by. And then as they leave the cabin, he has what I imagine is a panic attack of sorts. He says it's nothing, but Ellie is concerned.
Are you dying? Because just a reminder that if you're dead, I'm fucked.
Set up fine.
Right away, Ellie is panicked. She's lost Tess, she just lost Sam and Henry. Well, technically 3 months ago, I suppose, but, you know, the slightest issue here and her immediate worry is Joel might be dying too. As we already know, Ellie is afraid of ending up alone. Great touch, great foreshadowing for the end of the episode, and also this. It hints that Joel is slowing down, let's say. He's getting old. That should be quite obvious, you know? As I said, he falls asleep taking watch at the campfire. He's also going deaf on one side and so didn't wake when Ellie got up and moved about. These are concerns for him, he tells Ellie.
I'm responsible for you, okay?
And yet he kind of fails in that responsibility here. I'm literally just describing what happens in the plot right now, but it will lead to something. That concern weighs on him. He later freezes up when the dog goes to sniff Ellie for the fungus, the way he froze up around Sam and Henry, and it all leads to a beautifully tearful scene with Tommy.
You know, she saved my life there. From another kid. 5 years ago, I would have destroyed him. But she had to shoot him to save me. 14 years old. Because I was too slow and too fucking deaf to hear him coming. I saw a man kill his own brother. To save her, while I just watched. And today I thought that dog was gonna tear her apart because it smelled something on her. And all I did was stand there. I couldn't move.
Such a gut punch of a scene, by the way. Pedro Pascal plays it perfectly, but it's all been building to that. You know, if Joel feels he has this massive responsibility to protect Ellie, a responsibility he feels like he's failing, worries he will fail the way he failed Sarah in his mind. If that's the case, he decides then that he has to hand that responsibility over to someone better, someone who won't fail, to Tommy. And the point is, he's wrong. He's not supposed to hand that responsibility over, he's supposed to help Ellie grow into some of that responsibility. Help her develop into an adult who can take care of herself as much as Joel can. That's the point of this scene. It's already told us that answer. Joel is too tired and too deaf to successfully keep watch. Therefore, Ellie took over. Joel taught her how to take over.
I was quiet. I checked my sticks. I looked for tracks. I found the high ground, and I kept watch. Like you taught me to.
It's great then to notice the different ways they see this moment. Joel sees it as another sign of him failing. He's angry at her for not waking him precisely because he's angry with himself, whereas Ellie sees it as a moment to prove that she's learning. She wants Joel to be proud of her here.
What can I say, man? I'm a natural.
I said in my episode 4 video that I wish there was more conflict to their relationship back then, but this is it really. The side of Joel that wants to see her as an innocent child, as Sarah. That view sets against the fact that Ellie can't be Sarah, isn't meant to be. Sure, she's a child, and we see all of that childishness in moments, but she's also older than Sarah was. She's grown up in a very different world as an entirely different person, and it's incredibly sad really, seeing Joel chain himself to the idea of needing to be this superhuman out-and-out protector who is 100% in charge of that stuff. As his attempt to resolve what happened with Sarah really, he's gone overboard into the protector role to the extent of hunting down Tommy all of this way thinking he needed to save him, when no, Tommy was actually fine. So yes, Joel is aging, but that doesn't mean she needs Tommy. Sure, she can't do everything on her own and still needs some protection, but what she needs isn't an out-and-out protector, it's a father figure who can also provide teaching the way parents do. That's what she needs Joel to be, the thing he's most scared to be. Early into this episode we get the exchange.
Should have stolen 2 rabbits.
We can get our own rabbits.
You gonna teach me how?
Just keep moving.
And later Tommy talks about using his rifle to headshot infected from half a mile away.
Can you teach me how?
No, we can't.
But then, after this arc, with Joel reverting his decision and now going with Ellie after all, not leaving her behind with Tommy, we get the scene of him teaching her how to fire the rifle, possibly for the sake of getting rabbits or shooting infected. And I think anyone who's played the game is very familiar with a cutscene where Ellie does hunt a rabbit in the snow and why that's significant. This episode ends with Joel taking a wound which may very well kill him. We don't know yet. How well Ellie has been taught to look after herself then, and possibly look after Joel as well, could become incredibly important now. Also, I wonder what the experience of trying to heal Joel from this wound might mean for her, having previously failed to heal Sam. That's a thought. There are a few other quick things I want to discuss before this video ends. Also, this is my absolute favourite shot of the episode. The way the camera lingers on Ellie's face here after joking about Sally Ride, to feel her pain lurking beneath the chirpy exterior. We understand that now. It's a great long moment of silence where you can tell exactly what she's thinking before she even says it.
It'll work, right? The vaccine.
Anyway, yes, other important things to discuss. Let's discuss them now, or almost now.
Oh.
Hello world! Have you heard of World Anvil? World? Sponsoring this video. World Anvil is an online tool for world building, character creation, campaign building and playing in all of these games, planning and writing your stories, and possibly some other stuff. I just use it for my novel, but it does other stuff too. World building can be difficult, I used to use a folder for different Word documents which seemed simple enough to begin with until things get complex and you end up with a disorganized mess and you suddenly wish you had hyperlinks to different characters or mythologies in your notes. Or imagine this, say you want to design your own calendar for your world. You can pop in all the information, have the calendar generated, then build a timeline of historical events linked to that calendar or several calendars with all sorts of hyperlinks you might want sprawling to other articles, and then upload a map and link different events to locations on the map so you can easily see where and when everything happened. I find that so handy, and if the timeline affects how the map looks, such as a big city getting destroyed or whatever else, you can add altered maps to reflect those changes. And there are other tools as well. This is just the one I find most exciting, especially when it is all surprisingly easy to set up. In all my use of World Anvil so far, I haven't ever bothered to watch any of their tutorials on how to do stuff. I've just got on with it. I have a link in the description and as a pinned comment with the code TREE, which offers you 40% off all their subscriptions. There are different levels and you can even try out the free version initially, so give it a whirl, take it for a test drive. World Anvil. Now me back to talking other things. A lot of people seem to be caught up debating whether the show or the game did these scenes better, and I get that because this episode includes possibly the most impactful scene from the game, and we remember that fondly and want for the show to give us that experience again, like re-experiencing it for the first time, and that does make it hard not to compare them. I did kind of have to tell myself internally not to compare the scene before the actual emotion of it properly hit me.
So don't tell me that I'd be safe with somebody else, because the truth is, I would just be more scared.
And yes, if we are comparing, I do think Joel taking his wound is done worse in the show. I think it's more realistic, but it feels very rushed here. Nonetheless, never mind comparing the nuances of the big emotional scenes, what's more important is all the extra layers we get around those moments. Principally what they've added to Tommy, changing it so that Maria is pregnant and Tommy has anxieties over becoming a father. How that is reflected against Joel, it just adds another element going into this. Joel talked before about Tommy running off to join the Fireflies as his pipe dream about being a hero, but now it feels more like his attempt at redemption for all the bad things he did with Joel.
We did those things. They weren't things. We murdered people.
Why he then left the Fireflies we don't know, but we can imagine it's something along those lines. From the way Maria tries to warn Ellie about Joel, you can infer a lot of what Tommy must have told Maria about him. And that is wonderful. It makes the two feel like real, authentic brothers with a lot of history and conflict between them. And Maria saying,
"Be careful who you put your faith in. The only people who can betray us are the ones we trust."
And then Ellie arguing against this idea. I love the way she sticks up for Joel, only for Joel to then immediately betray her by attempting to leave. Again, we remember that Ellie's greatest fear is ending up alone. It's all great. I particularly like this extra insight into why Joel chooses to leave Ellie. She's not cargo anymore, that's exactly the problem. She's starting to feel like a daughter, which means he's now afraid of letting her down. No wonder he's having panic attacks, no wonder he needs, as much as he hates to hear it, for Ellie to say,
I'm not her, you know.
Having said all that, it is a shame not to see the photograph of Sarah from the game, but I assume that's because they found a better place to introduce it later down the line, I hope. If you're familiar with the game, you'll understand how this arc here sets up everything so perfectly for what happens next in the story. If you've not played the game, you might be able to sense some of that, but I'm not going to over-explain that or anything. I'll wait for episode 7 to drop. My god, is that episode looking to be a good one now. Anyway, that's this video. I might do some more talking about it on Patreon if I get time. I'm not yet sure. I've got a lot to do this week, including a funeral. But please give this a like if you enjoyed it. Leave your comments, what I missed, what I got wrong, whatever. Subscribe or check the playlist for my other videos on this show. Maybe support me on Patreon if you fancy that. A big thank you to Joel and Anvil, but otherwise, hopefully see you next time. And as ever, a special thank you goes to Luke Core, Treachu Kaber, Michael Gallagher, InSquares, Flying Spider, Samara Salsi, Joshua C. Follier and Jab Bramwell. Thank you.